I still remember sitting in a bar when the lights swam like amber ghosts over half-drained glasses and half-lived dreams. She was there, knees tucked on the stool like it was her private throne, leaning into a man who barely seemed to notice her. You watch him lift his whiskey, speak once, then vanish into the crush of bodies as if the air simply swallowed him. She stays rooted to that empty space, eyes flicking everywhere except the exit, lungs forgetting to breathe until the door stops swinging. In that frozen beat, you see it a hunger that has nothing to do with attention and everything to do with absence. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to weaponize that invisibility so it bends the strongest desire towards you without a word. You've been told for years to show up, text back, reassure, prove your worth through presence, yet each gift of certainty drains her thrill a little more. All this time, you've been adding bricks to the shrine of availability, unaware you're building a prison for attraction. The truth lands like broken glass in your palm. Anticipation thrives on the unknown. When she can map every inch of your schedule, she stops dreaming about where you could be. Your predictability becomes the slow leak that flattens lust. Inside you, a voice mutters, but disappearing feels like cowardice. That's the conditioning talking society's polite cage rattling to keep you docile. You're about to torch it and watch the sparks climb. Picture a tightrope strung between two skyscrapers at midnight. Attraction lives on that wire, balanced by tension and mystery. Step too close and the wire slackens. She steps off board. Step too far and it snaps. She curses your ghost. The art is in planting one foot on the steel while the other hovers over darkness, letting her wonder whether you'll stay or vanish. You taste that fear in the back of your throat right now. The animal panic of being forgotten. If I disappear, she'll move on. No. She only moves on when your presence confirms she already has you. Think of the last text conversation that turned cold. You poured out clever replies, quick emojis, a meme you thought might resurrect momentum. Each ping was another neon arrow pointing at how available you were. Her replies stretched thinner, spaces arriving like unmarked graves. You sensed the chill too late because your instinct told you to do, not to deny. The man who disappears is fluent in denial, denying the urge to fix, refusing the itch to seek reassurance, choking the impulse until the silence itself becomes a roar in her head. She scrolls, double-checks, wonders if the algorithm buried your name, then admits the algorithm is you. Inside every woman, no matter how polished the surface, coils a competitive huntress programmed by evolution to chase scarce prey. You've mistaken politeness for romance and handed yourself over like an unmoving target. Disappearing flips the script. It whispers, "If you want me, run." You can hear her sneakers already scuffing the pavement in your imagination. Yet the trick isn't physical distance, it's psychological removal. You can be in the same room, share the same couch, and still disappear by leaning back into your own purpose so completely she must crane her neck to glimpse it. Purpose is a dark forest with no tourist signs, and she loves the risk of getting lost. Now the common mistake crashes through the doormen try to fake absence with gimmicks, delayed texts, planted jealousy, artificial mystery. She smells the plastic in seconds. Disappearing begins with genuine immersion in what feeds you beyond her lifting iron until your bones ring. Grinding at midnight projects no one applauds. Walking city blocks under rain just to hear your thoughts echo. The moment your attention welds itself to something untouchable, she feels the rollback of warmth like a sudden eclipse. It's real, and real silence amplifies allure louder than scripted lines. So here's the first challenge, burning your hand like a lit match. Tonight, when your phone vibrates in that pocket groove you've carved for instant validation, leave it. Let the screen go dark. Let the dopamine wither. Walk out into the night air and count the seconds until the panic settles into a strange calm. You're stretching the space where she will later pour her curiosity. As you move, rehearse no explanations. "I was busy" is still a chain. True disappearance offers no alibi. When you return and she asks where you went, let your shrug carry the weight of oceans. A smile is enough. She'll test you. She'll send bait questions, half jokes, thinly veiled accusations of indifference. Every reply you craft must feel carved, not typed short, unhurried, angled toward your horizon instead of her spotlight. Inside her mind, a private scoreboard flickers. Each unanswered hour increases your value. You're not playing hard to get. You're hard to hold because you finally love your own gravity more than her spotlight. The rope between those skyscrapers tightens, gleams. And now she's the one balancing, step after trembling step. Terrified you'll cut it before she reaches you. There's a brutal honesty most men aren't ready to swallow when you vanish into your mission. She starts imagining you again. Not remembering, imagining. That's the key. Memory is factual. Imagination is dangerous. Memory compares, imagination creates. The man who disappears is a blank screen onto which she projects fantasies, fears, challenges, even erotic threat. It's no longer about who you are, but who you might be. And that uncertainty, that's the furnace of desire. She's not addicted to your presence, she's addicted to decoding your absence. But here's where most guys screw it up. They think disappearing means cutting off cold and waiting for her to crawl back. That's not mystery, it's manipulation. And she can feel it. Real disappearance doesn't punish. It seduces through detachment. You're not trying to get her back, you've already released her. Fully. And that's why she feels the pull. A woman knows when your heart is still begging behind your silence. But if she senses no tether, only the echo of your footsteps heading somewhere she can't follow yet, that's when her curiosity curdles into obsession. Imagine this: you're at a dinner party. Quiet, calm, present, but reserved. You're not scrolling your phone or scanning for reactions. You're absorbing the room. Slowly. When she speaks, you listen, but you don't lean in. You nod once. Smile faintly. You don't explain what you do or what you want. You drop a sentence so sharp she's still unpacking it after dessert. And then you leave before anyone can ask where you're going. She watches the door close, and for the rest of the night, she forgets every man who stayed. That's the power of energetic disappearance. You don't ghost, you don't explain, you exit clean, unfazed, self-sufficient, like a shadow that walked through fire and didn't even flinch. Women aren't drawn to the man who stays and explains. They're drawn to the man whose silence speaks of depth too wide to map. Every text she sends you without reply becomes a mirror to her own longing. Every hour you spend elsewhere builds a shrine in her imagination. What is he doing? Who is he with? Why isn't he needing me? And that's where the brutality comes in. She may never admit it. She may lash out, accuse you of emotional distance, claim she's moved on, but in her bones she knows you were the one who chose to walk alone, and that haunts her. Not because you left, but because she doesn't know why. Every woman has a deep archive of men who overstayed, who explained too much, who begged and pleaded and apologized for having needs. But the man who left without ceremony, the one who simply vanished into his own legend, he stays in the shadows of her dreams. Here's another challenge, one that's not just about her, but about you. Spend 3 days off the radar, not to punish, not to test, but to reset. No calls, no just checking in, no breadcrumbs. Invest that time not in waiting, but in building your craft, your body, your mind. Walk farther than you planned. Read longer than you thought you could focus. Say nothing to anyone who hasn't earned the right to your attention. You'll feel the panic at first, the itch to be witnessed. That's the withdrawal of being constantly seen. Once that fades, you'll start to remember what it means to see yourself. The man who disappears isn't avoiding connection. He's reclaiming authority. Because the ultimate magnetism doesn't come from charm. It comes from sovereignty. A man who doesn't need her response is the only one whose presence means anything. She's used to controlling the rhythm, slow replies, ghosting, breadcrumbing. But when you disappear, when you go silent not as a tactic, but as a truth, the entire rhythm collapses. She scrambles to find the beat again and realizes it was yours all along. There's no formula here, no script, no text this and she'll chase. Because disappearing isn't a move, it's a way of being. You stop showing up where you're not valued. You stop explaining your silence. You stop chasing the feminine to validate the masculine. You move as though your presence is precious and that if it isn't honored, it will vanish like mist in morning light. Not because you're cruel, but because your life is too full, too sharp, too rich to waste convincing someone to see it. And maybe she'll text. Maybe she won't. That part doesn't matter because you're not disappearing for her. You're disappearing into yourself, into that place where your own voice is louder than her approval, into that cave of quiet where you forge purpose, not performance, into the man she thought she wanted, then realized she couldn't keep. There's a moment every man hits when he's done being entertaining, done being agreeable, done being available for anyone who doesn't bleed to earn it. You feel it in your chest first. Not rage, not pride, just a cold, focused silence. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. That silence is the beginning of your disappearance, not from the world, but from the performance you've been trapped in. You start pulling back your energy like a king calling home his soldiers, not to hide, but to build a fortress. Disappearing is not about ignoring women. It's about no longer orbiting them. There's a difference. Most men spin endlessly around the feminine, hoping their gravity will be strong enough to draw her in. But the man who disappears is the center. And from that position, she spins around his mystery, his vision, his unshakable direction. You become a world she wants to enter, not a follower begging entry into hers. Ask yourself, when was the last time you walked out of a room without needing to be remembered? Not trying to be unforgettable, just walking out because you were done. That is power. Not theatrical, not aggressive, just final. You're not slamming doors, you're gliding through them with the quiet knowing that nothing on the other side owns you anymore. That's what leaves an imprint. The men who stay in women's minds aren't the ones who tried hardest. They're the ones who made her wonder. Did I ever really know him? That question echoes long after compliments fade. Because a man who disappears without apology, without noise, without a final plea, he becomes myth. And myths aren't forgotten. They're whispered about, imagined, worshipped. But here's what no one tells you: disappearing is painful at first. Not for her, for you. Because you're breaking a cycle of craving female validation. You're breaking your addiction to emotional scraps. You're confronting the silence where your insecurities scream the loudest. What if she never texts back? What if she finds someone else? What if I lose her? These voices will rise, and you let them. You don't fight them. You starve them. Not with distraction, but with discipline. Discipline to stay gone. Discipline to not check her stories. Discipline to not send a clever message just to see if she bites. And when the ache hits hardest, that's your sign you're close. That ache is the price of reclaiming yourself. Feel it fully, then let it pass. And once it passes, there will be a new clarity. The kind that only comes when you realize you're still breathing without her attention. Stronger, even. You may think disappearing means losing the connection, but the opposite is true. It redefines the connection, because now she has to come to you. Now she has to reach, and women crave to reach. When everything is handed to them, they lose respect. But when you pull away with quiet strength, when you disappear not to punish but to evolve, you give her something to measure herself against. She may not say it. She may pretend she doesn't notice. But inside, the silence howls. Your absence becomes a mirror. And in that mirror, she sees the parts of herself that only your distance could reveal. She sees the version of herself she was with you, and it doesn't exist with anyone else. That's the haunting. That's the hook. You're not the man who waits for permission. You're not the man who repeats himself just to be heard. You speak once, you vanish. And the echo follows her. Through dates, through parties, through every night where she glances at her phone, praying for a vibration that doesn't come. You live in that space now. Not in her feed, not in her inbox, but in the silence she can't escape. So don't confuse absence with weakness. Don't confuse disappearing with quitting. This is not surrender. This is war by other means. And your enemy is not her. It's the version of you that needed to be needed. That boy is gone now. The man he walks alone into the fire of his own making, calm, sharp, and untouchable. You don't disappear to get her back. You disappear because you finally remembered who you were before she entered the room.